Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to get this through early, and it is aimed at people who couldn't attend the class on Friday. And I'm a little concerned that if you were not there when I explained how to do the lesson plan, you won't know what to do. So I would like you to take this video when you start your lesson plan, and as you go through the lesson plan, listen to the video, because I'm going to do each step by step. The first thing is the lesson plan that you retrieve from Learn 2023 has to have this little girl watermark on it. I cannot accept any other lesson plan. It has to be this lesson plan. The next thing is the lesson plan. I have already gone through the routine information. But remember, you need to fill in each thing. If it's a subject, it's history. If it's the topic, it's the early settlers. If it's your content area, it is where the settlers came from and where they moved to. So the topic is the big thing at the top, and the content area comes underneath, and there are normally a few. You have to have the CAPS page number, and please don't try and just write anything, because by now I've got used to where stuff is and where to find it. So, and the duration of the lesson. The specific aims, I'm not going through them again. You'll find them in the CAPS document. Specific aims, there are about 5 or 6 in each subject. You take the specific aim that matches your lesson. And then we come to the knowledge, skills, and values in the lesson objectives. Now, I want to tell you how you're going to attack this thing, and this is what I want you to do. You have to hand in a spider diagram of this lesson plan that you write. You have to, you get marks for it. So if you don't hand it in, out of 100 marks, 20 get taken off straight away, because that is the basis, it's the foundation. You cannot build a house on watery, muddy ground. It's got to have a foundation, a solid foundation of cement. And your foundation is your spider diagram. And I'm going to quickly do it for you now and show you how you start. The lesson that I'm going to prepare today is a lesson for grade 7, and it is, the topic is development of self in society, and the content area is personal, diet, and nutrition. That will be here, and I'll have personal, diet, and nutrition. That's what I'm working from. This is my content area. This is going to be my lesson. Now, the first thing I need is I need my lesson objectives. Knowledge is the first one. And I think to myself, what information do I want to put about this into those children's heads? What do I want them to know when I'm finished the lesson and they walk out the class? What do I want them to have in their heads? That is my objective. It's my aim. It's my vision. Well, not my vision, it's actually my mission. My vision is to educate them, but my mission is to get them to know facts about personal diet and nutrition. So the first thing I say is, learners will know or be able to, number 1, what diet is. Lots of people think diet is when you go without food for 2 days and you can already feel yourself getting nice and thin. That's not diet. Diet is what you put into your mouth. I want them to know what nutrition is. And where am I finding all this information? I'm finding it in the textbook. I'm finding it on Google. I'm finding it in other books that I've got, magazines that I've got, anything that has information. And if you don't Google, then you really are very silly, because it's all there for you. What else do I want? I want to teach them about the food pyramid. Because I want them to know what classes the food go into. And then I want them to know why foods, or what foods rather, are needed by my body. Now those are my 4 points that I want to put in their heads. When they walk out, I want them to know what diet is. They must be able to explain it, not just give a definition. Definitions are easy, they just learn it off by heart. But I want them to understand it and put it in their own words. I want them to put in their own words what nutrition is. I want them to be able to see the food pyramid with the different foods, and I want them to know why those foods are good for my body and why I need to eat them. There might be others. You can have as many as you like, but not too many. Then, what do I want them, the skills, what do I want them to do with this information? Once they've got it in their heads, what do I want them to be able to do with it? No good teaching them stuff and they never use it. Well, when I look at that diet and nutrition and the food pyramid, perhaps I want them to be able to draw the food pyramid so they know the different foods. So I say, learners will be able to draw the food pyramid. What else do I want them to do? I want them to be able to choose a good diet. I want them to be able to set out a menu for themselves every day and say, for breakfast, I'm going to eat this, 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 and this because it's healthy and it comes from our food pyramid. I want to be able for lunch to eat this, this, and this from my food pyramid. And for supper, that's what I want them to be able to do. I want them to be able to use the stuff that I've put in their heads. So, I want them to be able to draw the food pyramid, and I want them to be able to make a healthy daily diet. There might be other things you want them to do, but those are my 2 important things that I want them to be able to do. And then I come to the part of life of lesson objectives, which is values. What do I want them to value? And please don't say, I want them to value themselves, or I want them to value the lesson. No, it's not about that. When I'm finished teaching this lesson, how do I want them to feel about this information that they've learnt about? Well, the words that you use, the verbs are appreciate, recognize, value. So I want them to appreciate, and this will be my first one, different foods. There are hundreds of people that are starving. You might want them to value being able to have a meal every day. So those are all my lesson objectives. So now I take my lesson plan and I have a look and I see here is knowledge. So I take my knowledge and I put it in there. There is skills. I take the skills and I write it in, type it in there. And then on the next page, I have the values, and I take my values and I go and write it in there. Okay? So now I have done my specific aims and I've done my lesson objectives, right? Now, the next thing is I have to do my teaching strategies. How am I going to get this lesson across to them? So I take it up here and I write teaching strategies. And I think to myself now, how am I going to teach them this lesson? Now you all know we can't teach a lesson. We're in the business of explaining things. That's what teachers do. They explain things. That's why it's so difficult to be a teacher. We've got to gather knowledge all the time. All the time. Whenever we see anything, we have to ask ourselves questions like why, what, how, because that's what children do. They're not just happy with you just dishing out the information. So you have to have some knowledge of it. So I have to use explanation. That'll be the first thing I do. And then I can't teach a lesson unless I'm asking questions and getting answers from them. Question and answer. And now I've been thinking about this lesson, and what I want to do in the end is I want to put them into groups. So I'm going to be using the group strategy as well. What else will I be doing in this lesson? Well, I will be demonstrating, because you know what I thought of? I thought I'm going to bring some food. I'm going to bring a packet of chips, I'm going to bring an apple, I'm going to bring a yogurt cup, and I'm going to demonstrate something to them, which is written on the side of the yogurt cup. So I'm going to do a demonstration. And those are the teaching strategies that I'm going to use for this lesson. So I go to teaching strategies and I start writing all this in here. And I don't write, I am going to use the explanation method. All I do is write explanation, question and answer, demonstration, group. That's all. I don't go and write it all out. The next thing is, what resources am I going to use for this lesson? So I've been thinking about this. What am I going to use to show the children and try and get the information over to them by using visual aids? Remember I told you in the beginning, you're sitting with a class of 45 and every single one of them have a different way of learning. Visual learners, oral learners, tactile learners. They want to feel the packet of chips. They want to feel that apple. And they'll remember it better. So, what am I going to bring for these children? Well, I'm going to bring pieces of food. And I decide which it will be. I can write apple, packet of chips, chocolate, whatever I want to write. What else am I going to use? Well, I'm definitely going to use a chart because I want to show them what the pyramid looks like. So I'll have a pyramid chart. But you know what I'm going to do with that pyramid chart? Now that I think about it, I think it will be more effective if I use an interactive chart. So I'm going to make a pyramid chart, but it's going to be interactive. Now, maybe at the end of the lesson when I get them into groups, I I hand out paper plates for them. And maybe I want them to, this group here, to actually devise a nice breakfast, a healthy breakfast. That group there, I want them to do a healthy, so I might want them to look for pictures, or I might want them to draw the pictures of the plate. So if I'm going to do that, I've got to have paper plates here, because those are the things that I'm going to need for my lesson. I can't in the middle of a lesson send a child out and say, go next door and ask Mrs. So-and-so if she's got plates for me. I've got to have all the stuff ready, and that's why I make this chart. Now, I take my resources and I go and write them in there. Okay? We're that far. Now we're coming to the introduction of my lesson. So here, I have introduction. And I told the students on Friday, if you start a lesson by saying, today I'm going to teach you about personal diet and nutrition, I'm not reading any further. Because that is not an introduction. I've seen teachers walk in, pick up a book and say to them, so where did we get to yesterday? Well, that straight away tells the children, I have not prepared anything. You tell me where we are. And they're not going to listen, they're not interested. So you have to have a wow introduction. And on Learn 2023, there are at least 30 different ways of starting a lesson. One of them that I showed them on Friday was to play a game with them. Put them into 2 rows and put something on the board, a question. And each group has to run up and put the answer. And at the end of it, you see which group won. There was this one here that I showed them about, drawing a circle. With those letters on. And asking the learners, can anybody make a 2-letter word for me? And you hope that somebody will come out with 2. Can anybody work out a 3-letter word for me? Somebody might come out with pet. A 4-letter word for me. Ripe. Can anybody use all these words in a word? All these letters in a word? And one of them might be bright enough to say protein. All right? And once they've got it, you say that is a type of food, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. And you start your lesson. You're not teaching them anything. You're not telling them anything about the lesson. You're keeping it like a real boom. Here it is. So, once you've got your introduction, you know what you're going to do, and you know what wow thing you're going to do for it, you write your introduction here. And you don't go and write everything like, I will come to the class with 2 different types of food and I will ask. Don't write all that. Just write what you're going to do here. I'm going to do a scramble game with them. I want you all to remember, this lesson plan you're writing now is for marks, yes. But when you write your lesson plan, it is for nobody else. This is my guide. This is my GPS, nobody else's. This is my GPS of how I'm going to teach this lesson when I walk into my class, grade 7, on the 4th period of Tuesday. It's not for anybody else. So you don't have to write things down here for other people. Just as long as you know what you're going to do. And of course that I know now because I'm marking it. But I'm going to play the scramble game, and I might just draw a picture of what it looked like. So I know. Right, now I write that here in my introduction. And I write, I am going to play the scramble game. It will look like this. I'll ask them to make 2-letter words, 3-letter words, 4-letter words, 5-letter words until they get the whole word. And then I'll tell them that I am going to do a lesson for them on personal diet and nutrition. And they'll all start shouting, I know what a diet is. I know what nutrition is. I know what, that's fine. Let them tell you and say thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I'm going to start on my development. And my development is the facts I'm going to teach them. And I'm going to have to go here for it because it's going to be quite long. This is my whole lesson that I'm going to teach. And please don't think that in the lesson plan, your development, development will be just a half a page. Your development will probably be about a page long. Because that is all the information that you're going to teach them. I can't just say, the definition of diet is this, the definition of nutrition is that, and here is the food pyramid. I'm going to give them information. So let's put it on this side here. Development. And my development, to make it easier for you teaching, put it into steps. Call them steps because you're working up to the top of the lesson. So step 1. And in the beginning of the lesson, I can't just throw all the new information at them. I've got to first just try and find out what they know about it. So in your step 1, you will probably ask 2 questions. And you write them here. What is diet? And what is a food pyramid? And they'll say, oh, I know exactly what it is. So good, that's very nice. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. So here in step 1, you've actually asked a few questions just to find out how much they know. Now we go to step 2. And in step 2, I am going to now teach them the first fact. I'm going to give them the definition of diet. And I'm going to write it all out here in my book so that I don't forget what it is. Then I'm going to go to step 3. And I'm going to give them the definition of nutrition. Then I'm going to go, and all this is written here in your lesson plan, in development. As you're going down in development, you are writing step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, as you go along. Maybe you have 6 steps, maybe you have 7 steps, I can't tell you. Every single lesson will be different because it depends on how I'm going to teach that lesson. Step 4. And now you write, step 4, I am going to use my interactive chart. And I am going to show them what the full food pyramid looks like. And then step 5, you might want to talk about healthy and unhealthy choices. You write it all there. Step 6, you might want to tell them about a healthy meal, what it would look like. Step 7 might be something else. It might not be a step 7. But as you go along and teach the information, you are writing it in your development. Right, now I come to my consolidation. That's the end of my lesson. And I always say to students, teaching a lesson is like talking on the phone. When I pick up the phone, I don't just say, would you like to meet me for coffee? First thing I do is I say, and all of you write an email like that to me as well. Hello, how are you? I hope you are well. That's my introduction. That's how I introduce myself. Then my development is, would you like to meet me for coffee? And I don't just put the phone down. Now I say, I will meet you there at 6. It's going to be fantastic to see you. Thank you. And that is my consolidation. And your consolidation will be using the interactive chart and doing group work. I hope this has been very clear to you. If it isn't, don't write the lesson plan and send it to me. Message me and I'll explain where you are and what the problem is. Thanks very much.